Sergeant Daniel Cross never thought his next mission would be babysitting royalty. He was a soldier, trained for battlefields, not ballroom guards. But orders were orders, and in the Galactic Alliance, disobedience was not an option. When the message came, it was short and strange. You are assigned to protect Princess Lysera of the Thalaran Empire until the peace summit is complete. Daniel had fought in the Dust Wars, survived plasma storms, and seen friends vanish into space dust. But this felt different. He was being sent to the Thalaran Embassy, a place of glowing walls and quiet guards, a place too beautiful and too fragile for a man like him. When he first saw her, he forgot how to breathe. Princess Lysera was unlike any alien he had ever seen. Her skin shimmered softly like moonlight on water. Her hair, pale silver, floated gently even when the air was still. Her eyes glowed a calm, bright blue, but behind that calm there was something else, a sadness that even her royal smile couldn't hide. "You are the human soldier?" she asked in a voice that sounded like wind through chimes. Daniel stood straight, trying to look like a proper guard. "Sergeant Cross, ma'am. Assigned to your security detail." Lysera tilted her head, studying him closely. "Security detail," she repeated slowly, then smiled faintly. "Or cagekeeper." Daniel blinked. "Excuse me?" She laughed softly, but there was no joy in it. "It is what it feels like sometimes, living behind walls, always being watched, even by kind eyes." He didn't know what to say. His training never prepared him for this, for words that felt heavier than any weapon. She walked past him, her gown brushing against his arm as she passed. The faint shimmer of her presence left his skin warm, and for a moment he almost forgot to breathe again. She turned her head slightly and said, "Don't stand so stiff, Sergeant. You'll break something." He gave a short, nervous chuckle. "Yes, Your Highness. Lysera," she corrected gently. "If we are to share the same air every day, I would prefer you use my name." Her words surprised him, but he nodded. "As you wish, Princess Lysera." Her smile widened just a little. "That's better." Later that night, Daniel stood at his post outside her chamber door, listening to the soft hum of the embassy's air system. Everything about this place felt unreal. The way the halls glowed with quiet energy. The way silence seemed to hum like music. But what bothered him wasn't the silence. It was her. There was something about the princess that didn't fit with the world around her. He had seen powerful leaders before, proud, cold, certain of themselves. But Lysera was different. Her smiles felt fragile, as if they could break under their own weight. And sometimes, when she thought no one was watching, she would stare out at the stars through her window with a look so full of longing it almost hurt to see. Daniel didn't understand why it bothered him so much. She was just another assignment. Another life to protect. That's all. But when she spoke to him, it never felt like duty. It felt human, even though she wasn't. He didn't know then that she would change everything, his duty, his loyalty, even his heart. All he knew, as the stars shone cold and distant beyond the glass, was that his mission had only just begun. And somewhere deep inside, a small voice whispered. This time the danger wasn't on the battlefield. It was standing right in front of him, wrapped in silk and starlight, smiling like she already knew what he didn't. It had only been 2 days since Daniel Cross began guarding Princess Lysera, and already she had disappeared. The alarms didn't sound. The palace security was too sophisticated for that. But his instincts screamed something was wrong. When he reached her quarters, the door was unlocked and her royal guard stood confused, scanning empty air. Daniel felt his heart drop. "Where is she?" One of the alien guards spoke in a sharp tone. "She is gone again. She does this sometimes." "It is not your fault, human." "Gone again," Daniel repeated. "You mean this isn't new?" The guard's eyes glowed faintly. "The princess has her habits. She slips past us when she wants to. No one can stop her." Daniel clenched his jaw. "Well, someone will have to." He left without another word, his boots echoing in the silver hallway. His pulse pounded as he checked the scanners, following faint traces of her energy signature. She wasn't in her chamber, not in the dining hall, not even in the royal garden. Then he saw it, an open door at the far end of the observation deck. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the glass dome. And there she was. Lysera stood alone at the edge, her gown flowing softly, her silver hair glowing in the reflected starlight. She looked like a dream, or maybe like a ghost that didn't know it was haunting. Your Highness? Daniel called, trying to sound firm. You're not supposed to be here. She didn't turn at first. I needed to see them, she said softly. The stars. He asked, stepping closer. She nodded. Back home we could see them every night. They felt alive. But here, she placed her hand against the glass. They feel distant, silent, as if they're waiting for something that never comes. Daniel sighed. You shouldn't risk yourself like this. If something happens... She turned then, and for the first time he saw tears shimmer in her glowing eyes. If something happens, maybe they'll finally let peace come. What do you mean? Lysra smiled sadly. My father uses me as a promise, to keep other worlds from rebelling. If I vanish, the galaxy shakes. If I die, it breaks. Her voice trembled, and Daniel felt something twist inside him. She wasn't a spoiled royal sneaking out for fun. She was trapped just in a prettier cage. He took a slow breath. You're not just a symbol, Princess. You're a person. Am I? She whispered. Because I haven't felt like one for years. Silence hung between them, heavy, fragile, real. Then she suddenly smiled again, the sadness vanishing behind a playful look. You worry too much, Sergeant. That's my job. Then maybe you do it too well, she teased gently. You make me feel watched even when you're not there. Daniel tried not to react, but she saw the faint flicker in his eyes and grinned wider. Ah, so the soldier does have feelings. He shook his head, half smiling despite himself. Feelings don't mix well with orders, Your Highness. Then maybe your orders are wrong. Her words hung in the air like a quiet challenge. He didn't answer. He couldn't. After a moment, she turned back toward the stars. You should go, Daniel. If they find us here, they'll think you helped me escape. He hesitated. Did you? She looked over her shoulder, her expression softening. Maybe I just wanted to see if you'd come find me. Something in her tone made his chest tighten. He didn't know what to say, so he just stood there. A soldier and a princess, divided by duty but drawn by something neither could name. When he finally escorted her back to her quarters, she stopped at the doorway and whispered, Thank you for coming after me. Daniel wanted to say always, but all he managed was a quiet, just doing my job. She smiled, but her eyes said she knew he meant something else. That night, as Daniel stood at his post again, he couldn't shake the image of her standing beneath the stars, lonely, beautiful, and impossibly far from the world she longed for. He had been assigned to protect her, but something inside him already feared he was the one who needed protection, not from danger, from her 3 nights passed before it happened. Again, Daniel was beginning to think the princess had finally decided to stay in her chambers, but deep down, he knew better. Lysra was like starlight, beautiful, untouchable, and impossible to keep still. When he entered her quarters that evening, he found the window shield open. The night sky poured in through the dome, and the room was empty. He sighed heavily. Not again. This time he didn't bother calling the guards. He simply followed his instincts. He had started to understand her patterns, how she always sought quiet places, corners where the stars were visible, or places filled with old Earth things. He checked the observation deck. Empty. The garden dome. Empty. Then he remembered something. The old maintenance bay below the main wing, the one where human workers sometimes stored relics of their ships. And there she was. Lysra sat on a dusty crate, legs folded gracefully beneath her, listening to a small speaker playing old human music. The soft tune of an Earth love song filled the air. Slow, tender, aching. Daniel stopped at the doorway, watching her sway gently to the rhythm. Her eyes were closed, her silver hair glowing under the dim light. For a moment he didn't want to interrupt. Then she opened her eyes and smiled. You found me again, Sergeant Cross. He crossed his arms. You make it sound like a game, Your Highness. Maybe it is, she replied softly. You chase, I hide, and for a few moments I get to feel free. Free? He repeated, stepping closer. She looked down. You don't understand what it means to live your whole life surrounded by guards, rules, and eyes that see you only as a symbol. I was born into light, Daniel, but it never feels warm. Her voice trembled slightly. Daniel felt something tighten in his chest. He wasn't good with emotions. He never was. But he could feel hers like an echo inside his own heart. He walked up to her, leaning against a nearby wall. I understand more than you think, he said quietly. Soldiers live in cages too. Different kind maybe, but still cages. Duty can trap you just as much as royalty does. Lysera looked up at him then, really looked, and for the first time, he saw surprise in her eyes. You sound like someone who's been lonely for a long time. Daniel smiled faintly. Maybe I have. They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the soft music. The song spoke of distance and longing, two hearts separated by time and space. It felt too close to the truth. Then Lysera broke the quiet with a teasing smile. Do all humans speak like this when they guard princesses? Only the ones who can't make them stay put, he said dryly. She laughed, really laughed, and the sound made something warm bloom inside him. It wasn't the soft, polite laugh of a royal. It was honest, alive, and beautiful. Tell me, Daniel, she said suddenly, why do you care so much? You could just let me escape. You'd have less trouble. He shook his head. Because it's my job to protect you. Her gaze softened. And if I told you I didn't want protection? He hesitated, searching her glowing eyes. Then I'd protect you anyway. For a heartbeat, the world seemed to pause. The music faded, the lights dimmed, and only the two of them remained. Two souls from different stars, drawn together by something neither could explain. Then Lysera stood, her gown brushing against him as she passed. You're impossible, Sergeant, she said softly. So are you, Princess. At the door, she stopped and turned back, her expression playful again. Next time, maybe you won't find me so easily. Daniel met her gaze with a small, determined smile. Next time, I'll start looking sooner. She smiled at that, a slow, knowing smile that stayed with him long after she left. When Daniel returned to his post that night, the old music still echoed in his mind. He realized something he hadn't wanted to admit before. He wasn't just protecting her anymore. He was chasing something he didn't even know he'd lost. Hope. And somewhere deep inside, he already feared what that meant. The next few days passed quietly, but Daniel knew the silence was only a disguise. The embassy had become tense, whispers in the hallways, guards doubling their posts, and strange coded messages flashing on screens. Something was happening. And then, one night, everything changed. The first explosion shook the West Wing. The lights flickered, alarms screamed, and Daniel's training took over before his thoughts could catch up. He grabbed his weapon and ran straight to her quarters. But the room was empty again. Not this time, he muttered under his breath and activated his tracker. Her life signal blinked faintly on his wrist device outside the safe area, near the lower courtyard. As he sprinted through the corridors, smoke filled the air. Alien guards shouted commands in languages he couldn't understand. He could hear distant fire, the sound of drones breaching the outer defense walls. Whoever they were here for her. When Daniel reached the courtyard, he stopped in shock. Lysera was standing under the glowing dome of the force field, her silver gown torn slightly, her hands glowing faintly blue as if holding the field itself together. Lysera, he shouted, running toward her. You can't be here, they're attacking. She didn't look at him. I know. What are you doing? We need to get you to safety. Finally, she turned, and in her eyes he saw both sadness and calm. There is no safety for me, Daniel. Not anywhere. He stared at her, confused and angry. What are you talking about? She took a slow breath. Do you know why I'm here? Why your people were told to protect me? You're part of the Peace Council, he said. You're the symbol of unity between your empire and the human colonies. Her faint smile carried pain. That's only the story they tell. The air around them shimmered as the dome trembled from another blast. Lysera continued, her voice breaking. I was sent here as a hostage, Daniel. A peace promise wrapped in gold. If I behave, the war stays quiet. If I die, the blame falls on your kind and the stars burn again. Daniel froze. That can't be true. It is. Her voice shook now. My father doesn't want peace, he wants control. and the Alliance wants to prove they can guard what they don't own. I'm just the perfect excuse. He took a step closer. You don't believe that. You've seen what we're fighting for. She looked at him with tearful eyes. I've seen death, Daniel. I've seen worlds burn for pride. If my death could stop another war, maybe it would be worth it. Daniel's voice hardened. Don't say that. Don't ever say that again. Then tell me, she whispered, stepping closer, her voice trembling. What should I live for? He met her gaze, his heart pounding. For yourself. For the stars you still want to see. For all the things that haven't happened yet. For the music you love. For... He stopped, his voice breaking. For me. Her glowing eyes widened. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Two lost souls standing under the trembling dome, the chaos of battle echoing in the distance. Then she smiled weakly. You shouldn't have said that, Sergeant. Why not? Because now I don't think I can leave you behind. The ground shook again. Daniel grabbed her hand. We have to move, now. She nodded, still holding his hand tightly. As they ran through the burning hallways, she whispered, You shouldn't care so much for someone who can't stay. Daniel's grip tightened. Then I'll fight to give you a reason to. When they finally reached the safe chamber, Lysera turned to him, her face lit by the red glow of the alarms. If I die, Daniel, I promise me you won't let them turn it into another war. He looked at her, his chest heavy with pain. You're not going to die, Princess. She smiled through her tears. You always say that like you believe it. And for once Daniel wished he could. The sound of explosions grew louder, the walls shook, lights flickered, and the once silent embassy had turned into a storm of chaos. Daniel pulled Lysera behind him as sparks fell from the ceiling. They've broken through the second wall, someone shouted over the comms. Daniel's instincts screamed for action. He grabbed his rifle, eyes sharp, every movement precise. Stay close to me, he told her. No matter what happens, don't run. Lysera's glowing eyes flickered with fear. They're here for me, Daniel. If I go with them, they'll stop. He turned sharply toward her. No. If they take you, the whole system will fall into war again. She hesitated but nodded, trusting him more than her own guards. Together, they ran through the smoke-filled corridor. The marble floors were cracked, the air filled with the sound of distant blaster fire. Daniel's heart pounded. Every corner they passed could be their last. Yet somehow, having her hand in his gave him strength. A sharp blast tore through the wall beside them, sending debris flying. Daniel threw himself over Lysera, shielding her from the impact. The explosion burned his side and he bit down a groan of pain. Daniel, she cried, her hands glowing as she tried to pull him up. You're hurt. I'm fine, he lied, blood seeping beneath his armor. We have to keep moving. They stumbled into the grand hall, now a battlefield. Drones floated in the air, firing bright plasma bolts at retreating guards. Daniel aimed, shooting one down with deadly precision. Another bolt came his way. He ducked, pushing Lysera behind a broken pillar. The noise was deafening, the air hot with energy fire. Daniel's vision blurred for a second, but he focused on her face, on the fear in her eyes. He spoke through gritted teeth. You have powers. Can you shield us? She nodded, placing her glowing palms on the ground. A soft blue light spread around them like a dome. The plasma bolts that hit it scattered harmlessly into sparks. But the energy drain was too much. Lysera trembled, her breath coming fast. I can't hold it for long. Daniel placed his hand on her shoulder, steady and strong. You're doing great, just a little longer. She looked up at him with tearful eyes. Why do you care so much? He smiled faintly, despite the pain. Because you make me forget what war feels like. Her heart skipped a beat. Even in the chaos, his words reached her like warmth in the cold. Suddenly, a huge drone crashed through the window above, its cannon charging. Daniel barely had time to react. He pushed Lysera aside, took aim, and fired. But the blast hit first. A bright wave of plasma struck him across the chest, sending him crashing into the floor. "Daniel!" Lysera screamed, rushing to his side. He coughed, his armor cracked, his breathing ragged. "Stay back!" Tears streamed down her cheeks as she pressed her glowing hands to his wound. A soft light surrounded him, slowing the bleeding, easing his pain. "Don't you dare leave me," she whispered. "Not now, not after everything." Daniel forced his eyes open. "You should run." She shook her head, voice trembling. "No, I'm not leaving you." The sound of footsteps echoed. Enemy soldiers approaching. Lysera's glow grew brighter, fiercer. Her tears shimmered in the blue light. "If they want me, they'll have to go through me." She rose to her feet, her entire body radiating with energy. The air vibrated. The floor cracked beneath her power. A wave of light exploded outward, knocking the soldiers back like leaves in the wind. Daniel, half-conscious, watched her, a princess no longer fragile, but fierce, radiant, unstoppable. When it was finally over, the hall was silent again. Lysera dropped to her knees beside him, exhausted, her hands still trembling. "You saved me," she whispered. He gave a weak smile. "You did the same." Her tears fell onto his chest plate, glowing faintly before fading. "Please don't die, Daniel. I can't lose you." He looked at her, his vision blurring. "You won't." "I promise." She pressed her forehead against his, her voice soft and broken. "You are the only part of this world that feels real." The last thing Daniel heard before the darkness took him was her whisper, "I will not let you go." When Daniel opened his eyes, everything was white. For a moment he thought he was dead. The ceiling above him glowed softly. The air smelled like clean metal, and the steady sound of a heart monitor filled the silence. His body ached, but the pain meant he was still alive. Then he heard her voice. "You're awake." He turned his head slowly. Princess Lysera sat beside him, her silver hair falling over her shoulders, her glowing eyes tired but gentle. She looked different, not the calm royal she tried to be, but someone softer, human in her sadness. "You've been asleep for 2 days," she whispered. "Your body took too much damage. The healers said you might not wake up." Daniel smiled weakly. "Guess I disappointed them." Lysera laughed softly, but tears filled her eyes. "You scared me, Daniel. I thought I lost you." He wanted to reach for her hand, but his arm felt heavy. "You didn't lose me," he said quietly. "I promised you, remember?" She nodded, brushing a tear from her cheek. "Yes, you always keep your promises." For a long moment they sat in silence. The war outside had quieted, the alarms gone. Only the faint hum of the ship's engines could be heard. Then Lysera finally spoke, her voice trembling slightly. "It's over," she said. "The attack ended the fighting. My father agreed to the Peace Council. They signed the first treaty this morning." Daniel blinked slowly. "Peace," he murmured. "That's good." "Yes," she said, though her tone carried no joy. "Good for everyone." "Except me," he frowned weakly. "Why do you say that?" Lysera looked down at her hands. "Because they are sending me home tomorrow." The words hit him harder than any wound. He didn't speak at first, just stared at the ceiling, trying to keep his breathing steady. "Home," he repeated. "You mean leaving?" "Yes," she whispered. "My father wants me back, and the council believes I'll be safer there now." Daniel's throat tightened. "And what do you want?" She looked at him, and in her eyes he saw everything she couldn't say aloud. "I want to stay." Her voice cracked on the last word. Daniel forced a smile, though his heart felt heavy. "You belong with your people, princess." "I belong where I am free," she said softly. "And for the first time in my life, that was here. With you." He turned his head toward her, meeting her glowing eyes. She reached out, taking his hand gently. Her fingers were cool and light, glowing faintly against his rough, scarred skin. "When I escaped those nights," she continued, her tone shaking, "I wasn't trying to rebel. I was trying to find something real. And every time I found you..." Daniel swallowed hard, his chest tightening. "Lysera." She leaned closer, tears falling silently down her face. "Do you know what frightens me most, Daniel?" He shook his head slowly. "That I'll go home," she whispered, "and forget how this felt. The air, your voice, the way you said my name, that I'll return to a palace full of light and never feel warmth again." Daniel's heart ached at her words. "Then don't forget," he said softly. "Keep it, every moment, every word. I'll be out there somewhere watching the same stars." Lysra smiled through her tears. "The same stars," she repeated. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead gently against his. Her voice was barely a whisper. "If there is another life, another sky, maybe we'll meet again." He wanted to tell her to stay, to fight, to run, but he couldn't. She had her duty, and he had his. When she finally stood, her hands lingered on his for a moment longer. "Goodbye, Sergeant Daniel Cross." He forced a smile, though his vision blurred. "Safe travels, Princess Lysra." As she walked toward the door, her silver gown shimmered in the light. She turned one last time, her glowing eyes filled with sorrow and love. "Goodbye, my human." Then she was gone, and the room felt colder than ever before. Daniel closed his eyes, letting her last words echo in his heart. He had survived battles, storms, and silence, but nothing hurt as much as letting her go. Months passed after the princess left. The war was over, and peace slowly returned to the stars. But for Daniel, the silence after war felt heavier than the sound of battle. Every morning he woke up to the same empty sky, the same quiet corridors of the ship, and the same echo of her voice in his mind. The galaxy was healing, but he was not. He still guarded the royal fleet, though now his orders were simple: protect peace. The title of Protector of the Princess had been removed from his record. It didn't matter. No title could erase what he had felt. Sometimes, when he looked at the stars, he imagined her, sitting in her golden palace far away, maybe watching the same sky. He would whisper, "Still watching, Lysra," and pretend the light of a far star was her answer. One night, while the ship drifted quietly near the border planets, a signal came through. It was an old-style message sealed under royal encryption. Only one person could send that kind of signal. Daniel's heart stopped for a moment. He opened it. The screen flickered, and her face appeared. Not a live call, in a recording. Her silver hair was shorter now, her eyes softer, sadder. She was wearing a white robe instead of royal armor. "Hello, Daniel," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "If you are seeing this, it means I'm home, but not free." Daniel leaned forward, his hands shaking slightly. She smiled faintly. "My father decided to send me into the deep sanctum, a place where royal bloodlines must remain until the treaty is final. It's like a cage, even if it looks like a palace." Her voice cracked. "I wanted to tell you this before they take away my access to the outside world. They say peace requires sacrifice. I think they are right. But I didn't know it would feel like this." Daniel clenched his fists, feeling that same helpless anger he had felt during the battle. Lysra looked down, then back up at the screen. Her glowing eyes were full of emotion. "Daniel, you once told me that stars never stop shining, even when no one sees them. You said they keep burning because that's what they were born to do." She smiled softly. "You were my star. You gave me courage when I had none. You made me believe that even an alien princess could feel human." A tear rolled down Daniel's cheek as the recording continued. "I can't run away anymore," she whispered. "Not because I stopped wanting to, but because now I understand what freedom really means. You showed me that it's not about where you are. It's about who you are within your heart." Her hand reached toward the camera as if she could touch him through the screen. "So if you ever feel alone again, look at the stars and remember me. I'll be watching the same sky. Always." The message ended. The screen went black. For a long time, Daniel just sat there staring at the reflection of his own tired face. Then he stood, walked to the observation deck, and looked out at the endless sea of stars. The universe stretched before him, silent, infinite, beautiful, and somewhere far beyond his reach. "She was there," he whispered softly. "I see you, Lysra." The stars shimmered faintly as if one of them blinked in reply. In that moment, Daniel realized something. Love didn't always need to be close. Sometimes it just needed to exist, quietly, endlessly, across the light years. He would guard peace, not because it was his duty, but because it was her dream. And as long as peace lived, a part of her would too. Daniel stood tall, the stars reflecting in his eyes. The pain in his heart didn't fade, but it became something gentler, something real. For the first time in months, he smiled. "Good night, Princess," he whispered. "Your guard will keep watching." The stars above flickered softly as if they were listening, and the ship drifted quietly into the endless light of dawn.